Hello and welcome back to Redirecting, and I'm going to be talking to those of you who are just about ready to bow out of the race. This message is going to be somewhat multifaceted, so I'm not going to deal with one particular aspect of things, but many different aspects of things. Some of you are ready to bow out of life. Some of you are ready to bow out of your belief or your faith or whatever it is. Some of you are ready to bow out of your marriage or relationships, your jobs, okay? So I'm talking to those of you who fall into any of those categories, okay? And I felt the need to do this message because there's a lot of discouragement going around. There's plenty to go around. So many different things are confusing, and you don't know who to trust. You don't know who to turn to. Just so many different things that we are all being surrounded by. I can't say that this message is going to be soft by any means, although it's not going to be rough either, but it's going to be kind of somewhere in the middle, okay? Only because I want you to understand this one thing. We all have to understand this one thing, that your life is your life. This person's life is theirs. That person's life is theirs. And one thing that I've come to realize and understand in this journey that we call life is that everyone, for the most part, is going to look out for themselves, right? And there is an element of selfishness in everyone, okay? Some more than others. You do have some people who think more about others than they do themselves, okay? Notice I said some. Most of the people in the world are not that way. And so this is why I'm having such a discussion, because most people in the world do not care about what you're going through. They don't care how you are affected by things that they do or things that they say. And so therefore, I want to encourage you, don't bow out of life or out of your faith or out of your marriage or whatever it is based on discouragements or things that can be fixed, okay? Now, I know it's easier said than done for some situations. In some cases, in marriage, you definitely have to bow out depending on what you're going through. In some cases, your job, you may have to bow out. But I want you to pause before you just do that. I want you to pause and think about each situation, whatever it is you're thinking about bowing out on. Pause, think, pray. Now, for those of you who don't believe in prayer, don't believe in the Most High, you're going to have to just sit through this to hear the rest of it, okay? Because that is where my faith is, okay? The Most High has done too much for me to deny His power in my life, okay? And I know many of you are not there. You tell me all the time, you need to drop that Bible stuff, Deborah. Yeah, I like listening to your channel, but you need to leave that stuff alone. Just hear me out, okay? All of it is not going to be about the Bible. I'm talking to those who are trying to bow out. You are fed up, you are tired, you are just weary, and you've just grown so very frustrated with your life or something that you are going through in your life that you just want to bow out. Guess what? I've been there before. Many of us have. Many of us have been to that point where we want to bow out. For some of us, we need a certain type of encouragement. Some of us need a shoulder that we can just cry on. Someone's chest you can just bury your head in. You see, some of you need your mom, some of you need your dad or your sister or your brother. You just need someone, some shoulder to cry on, someone to embrace you. For others, you need a swift kick. And what I mean by that is through those swift kicks that sometimes you have other individuals who say, you know what, I thank you for that tough love that you just laid out on me. Now I'm up and ready to run again, right? Some people can't deal with the pity. Okay, they can't deal with all of that because they will sulk down into that. That's where they will remain. Some people will need a swift kick, meaning you have to get back up on the saddle and keep it moving, right? And so I'm just going to say this, for me, I've needed both of those in my life. I've needed a swift kick at times, and sometimes I have needed that shoulder to cry on. I guess it depends on the situation. Now, I want to deal with those of you who are ready to just give up on your faith, okay? Because there are so many doctrines just swirling around. So many doctrines that are out here that with all these doctrines come confusion. And so some of you say, you know what, instead of trying to sort through all of this nonsense, how about I just lay it all to the side and don't believe in anything? Now, I've seen that particular scenario played out. I've seen where people have said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to process it anymore. It's just too much information. This person saying this, that person saying that. I'm kind of on the fence about it all. Don't want to veer off to the right. Don't want to veer off to the left. So I tell you what, I just won't do anything. Some people have that type of bow out or give up mentality, to where they just say, I don't want to believe in anything. I'm just going to live my life without any belief. They're not necessarily ready to become an atheist or an agnostic or anything like that, but they just don't want to believe in anything. And so they don't focus on anything. They just live their lives, right? That's not a good place to be either, you see. And then you have those who are going through certain situations on their job. I want to deal with the job thing because right now in America, a lot of people are losing their jobs, right? Your job is your source of income. And if you don't have a plan B, why are you quitting your job, right? Without that plan B, you're just going to put yourself into a tougher situation. Or you can analyze what you're going through on your job and figure out how to work through it. If it is behaviors that other people are presenting to you, there are things that you can do to help you deal with those behaviors, okay? And of course, even that depends on what type of behavior it is. If you feel like your life is threatened, by all means leave, okay? But if it's a situation where someone is just hoovering over you, they're being disrespectful, and they're doing all kinds of things that just make your stay there very uncomfortable, there are things that you can do. And I'm going to talk from a biblical standpoint right now. Okay, some of you don't understand that. You don't agree with it. I keep saying that because you don't need to keep telling me that. If you don't want to deal with that part of the information, that is fine. Just skip over, just hear the rest of it. But from a biblical standpoint, when a person is troubling you, when a person is doing things to make your job miserable, okay, if you've tried going to the boss or the supervisors and no one is doing anything about it, take it to the Most High. I've seen situations where that has happened, where someone said, you know what, I'm going to take this to the Most High. I'm not going to keep dealing with your mess. You don't have to get into no argument with them. You don't have to kowtow to them. But you take it to the Most High. Next thing you know, you'll look up and that person decides that they quit and they want to go work somewhere else. Or they will decide to move and go live somewhere else. And so I've seen the power of prayer and how it works in situations such as that, right? Now, those of you who just want to bow out of life. Now, I'm going to be a little softer and a little gentler with you, okay? When you want to bow out of life, you can do that a number of different ways. Some people choose suicide, okay? Others choose to just nestle up in their house and not deal with anyone. If they can afford to do that, maybe on a fixed income or something, and they don't need much, and their living expenses aren't that high, so they just shut themselves off from the world. And so that is kind of like one of those things that some people choose when they're not necessarily ready to just be finished with life, but they just don't want to deal with the cares of life and with people and the struggle and the spirits that come with being around a number of different people, okay? But those of you who are contemplating suicide, I want to say this to you. And I want you to listen to me very carefully. Many times when you find yourself in these situations, 9 times out of 10, and that's just a number I'm throwing out there, 9 times out of 10, it is usually related to something that another person, someone outside of you, has done to you. Now, for some, it can be depression with just life in general. I understand that. But many times that depression does come from others. It could come from struggles that could have been caused by others, a number of different things. Of course, we know that medications and things can sometimes cause that as well. But for a lot of people, suicide is usually mistreatment by others, abuse. Life is just too rough for them to handle. They don't want to face certain issues or things that have been tormenting them spiritually and mentally. And so therefore they say that this is my only escape. For those of you who feel that way, and many of you have, as a matter of fact, there was a couple of people who reached out to me recently and asked that I talk about suicide because there are a lot of people who contemplate this, right? That's one of those things that can be devastating to those who you leave behind, right? And then it's also one of those things that to the person who is contemplating this, think about this for a moment. There have been some who have had failed suicides, and they have regretted even trying to do this, okay? One gentleman in particular, this was something that aired on television years ago. There was a man who decided he was going to drink, I believe there was some acid or something. He said, when I drink this, it's just going to tear my insides up and I will be gone. That is what he thought. It didn't work. He didn't die. He did tear his insides up though. He tore up his pipes and all this stuff. They had to reroute all of that. And it just kind of messed his body up. But when he, came back around to everything, he had some great regrets for choosing that path. Don't allow the cares of this life or people to push you to that point and you make a mistake that is irreversible. One thing I want you to know about people and understand this. Many times when people set out to hurt you in whatever way it is that they are trying to hurt you, when they say things, when they do things, when they torment you, they taunt you, they tease you, they lie on you, they cheat on you, they steal from you, whatever it is that has pushed you to that point. One thing I want you to understand is most of the time, these people, they sleep well at night. Most of the time, they go off and they get right back into their life as if you were a non-issue to them, even after you have passed on. Now, the ones that are left hurting are the ones that love you, right? But usually the person who has caused you to get to that point of wanting to do this, they just go on about their business. So why give them that satisfaction? Why give a person like that the satisfaction of knowing that, yes, I finally pushed the right button and now I don't have to deal with this person anymore? Why are you trying to please the person or the people that are hurting you? Now, again, I'm talking to those of you who feel this way based on the mistreatment of others, okay? Now, those of you who cannot deal with the cares of this life, we have to understand that in this world, we will have tribulation, many of us. A lot of this was prophesied. You have to look at your life and determine why am I in this place, okay? And it's a very tricky thing because not everyone is willing to help you out of the place that you're in. And then not everyone is willing to examine their own selves to see if they are the reasons why they are in the place that they are in. Let me give you a short testimony on that. We had met a fella who was what they call down on his luck. I don't believe in luck, but that's what they call it. He found himself homeless. Now he's a big fella, big black fella. He ended up homeless, and we ended up seeing this person. He was living in a temporary shelter type situation. And so he would go around asking different ones for food and work or what have you. So we gave him food at one time and we gave him work. Now, in giving him work, he would come in and eat or whatever when it was time to take a break and eat. And so he would talk as well. Come to find out, he was married with children. And things got to the point where he can no longer be there with his family. And I'm not going to go into all of the details of his situation that he and his family had, but it ended up that he was homeless. Okay? Now, the hard thing for a lot of people to realize and understand is that when you do certain things, domestic violence or just hurting your family or whatever it is that you do to cause your family to split or to break up, you have to look at yourself and your faults in that situation to help you to determine why you are now homeless. Many times we will see homeless people, and of course, some of us take pity on them and we feel something for them. But if you analyze the whole situation, if you look at the whole picture, why is this person homeless? What did they do? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to make a point here because I already established that I was talking about a situation where there was domestic abuse, okay, and other things. So everyone that is homeless, this is not their situation, right? But many times you have to look at the big picture and see what the reason is, because not everyone is homeless because they just lost their job or something like that. Some people are homeless because they could not get along where they were, or they did something horrible to someone where they were, and no one else would take them in, you see. So everyone, regardless to what situation has you to the point to where you want to bow out, let a man and a woman examine themselves. We have to look at the person in the mirror too. You can't always look outside of yourself to find the fault or the reason why you're in your situation. Sometimes you have to look within yourself. You have to look at yourself. You have to examine your own self and see what it is you need to fix about you, okay? Because we can all find fault with others. We can all look at this person or that person and say, oh, it is your fault. If you didn't say this to me, if you didn't do this to me. At the end of the day, if we are truthful and honest with ourselves, and this is not every case, right? But for most of us, if we are truthful and honest with ourselves, if we surround ourselves by the right people and we make the right choices and we do the right things, we won't have to bow out of anything. We can just reevaluate our situation, our circumstance, and make the necessary changes, okay? Even those of you who want to bow out of the faith, okay? Why do you want to bow out? Are you too lazy to study to show yourself approved? Are you so disappointed that this person said this and you don't agree with it? You don't understand the teaching. And this person says something too and you don't understand it because it contradicts what this person says. So you say, okay, forget all of it. You have chosen a lazy path. When you decide to bow out, you have just said that I depended on this person and that person to give me everything that I need spiritually. And because now they are contradicting each other, I don't feel like sorting it out, so I'm going to bow out. I hope I'm making sense to those of you who have issues in your life that you want to bow out of. Many of us, like I said, I have been there before. There have been situations that have been so heavy on my shoulders that I did not want to get out of the bed. Okay? But we can't always make that choice, right? You can't just lay there. You have to get up, back on the saddle, and try again. Regardless to what the situation is, what the circumstances are, what people have done to you. Even with what people have done to you, like I said, take it to the Most High Yah. I have taken things to Yah. I have put in petitions to Yah concerning things that are a detriment to my soul. Okay? And if something is a detriment to your soul, turn it over to the Most High Yah. He can definitely heal those circumstances. Okay? Now, as far as life in general, listen, family, I will be the first to say I know and I understand that things are looking pretty rough right now. And this is why I'm always saying that we need to examine ourselves, because you might have to get with other people. You may have to join forces. And that's one of those things that most people don't want to hear. They don't want to do. They don't want to think about, because sometimes people are just hard to get along with, right? And it's not necessarily for those who may have the extra space, but many times they have made that choice not to deal with others because they have been burned. So I'm going to say it again. Listen, life is getting rough, and is going to get much more rough and tough for a lot of people. And so therefore, there are choices to be made. Instead of bowing out of life, sulking down into your misery, why don't you fix your attitude, change your ways, make yourself so irresistible to where people will notice the change and they will desire your presence and your company. I know it's easier said than done, but you have to fix yourself first before you try to bring your, I'm going to say it, garbage. That might sound harsh. Okay, like I said, this all wasn't going to sound soft anyway. Instead of trying to bring your garbage into another person's presence or midst, why don't you fix yourself, throw out the trash, and present a better you? Because we are going to need each other. Okay, we are going to need each other. Now, you can decide to stay the way you are if you want, but you just might end up one of those who are living on the streets with no help if you don't want to fix you. Okay? Like I said, this wasn't going to be too soft or too harsh either, but sometimes you have to toughen up when you're dealing with people, because everyone expects others. For the most part, I see a lot of people who expect others to deal with and put up with their nonsense. Even with children. You can have older children or even younger children who think, because you are my parents, you have to put up with my nonsense. No, that's not true. No one has to put up with your nonsense. You will even have parents who think, because I'm your mom or I'm your dad, you have to put up with my nonsense. No, I don't. I don't have to. You will have siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, any relative who thinks just because you are related, you have to put up with my nonsense. And guess what? No, we don't. We don't have to. You will have other people just because you are black and they are black, or others because you are white and they are white, or whatever race you are, Latino, Arab, Asian. You will have others who think that just because you look alike and you are the same race, that you have to put up with my nonsense. No, we don't. We don't have to. We don't have to. So this is yet again a message to encourage you to straighten up and fly right. You don't have to bow out of life. Just figure out from this point on, what do I need to do to fix my situation? Okay? I think I'm going to go ahead and end it right there. I hope I didn't sound too harsh, but I wasn't trying to sound too soft, because at some point you got to forget about giving up and you got to forge ahead. You have to press forward towards the mark for the prize of the high calling. Okay? You have to get back up on the saddle and keep on trying. Okay? All right. With that, I'm going to say shalom.